Hi everybody, it's Brian here with another video for my 52 project. I am lucky to be in this beautiful canola field. I can hear the bees all around me. It's quite stunning actually. And this week's video is called Victim versus Victory. And so as soon as we start talking about being a victim or being victimized, it's really difficult to have any kind of victory or overcome it in any way. And so we're just getting started. I'm just giving you ideas to start talking about it and thinking about it. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I remember teaching a child in grade 8, and he would be late every single morning, and even late at school for certain things or behind. And when I talked to him about it, he said that's just how his family is. They're known as being late, and his parents would drive him to school, and so he's late to school, and so it's not really his fault. That's what it means to be a victim, right? And so it's not your fault, but here you are now, and maybe now as an adult, he has to deal with that. Maybe he's late for work, and it's not like he can just say, well, my parents raised me to be late, or they're always late, that's why I'm late. It doesn't necessarily work that way anymore, but you still have to deal with it, even though it's not 100% his fault. That's what it kind of means to be a victim. And there can be all kinds of fairly light topics or very deep and dark and heavy topics. Like, I don't know, maybe you have bad eating habits because that's the way you were raised. Or for me, anger. It's not a really serious thing, but there were times where my dad was angry and dealing with anger, and so maybe he passed that on to me, and so I can blame him in a way for making me an angry person. So I'm a slight victim of anger, and so now I have to work through and deal with that. But obviously it gets into very hard things to deal with. Maybe you have a health problem because of an environmental factor or some spot you lived in a city, and that's a very real thing that you have to deal with. You're a victim of that. Obviously, systemic racism is very real, and every day you're dealing with racism and these race issues, and so very, very difficult to overcome some of those things. Maybe as a child you were abused, or you're in a controlling relationship now. Maybe even now you're in a relationship and you're underage, but you're the same age, but one person is more popular, and so they're using their popularity to control or get their way with you in the relationship, and that's the same thing. You're a victim of that. Maybe somebody close to you committed suicide. These are all hard mountains to overcome and very real. But the idea is we need to make progress and victory in any way. So for me, number one, I have to understand, I think I'm going to be dealing with this forever. And that's not a, yay, it's not great, but it's just true. And so I think of it like exercise. I'm going to have to exercise and eat well until the day that I die. I'm going to have to deal with anger and work through it probably until the day I die. And I think that's a step towards victory, is understanding that. It's just kind of part of who I am, and I'm going to work at it. I'm going to face it. I'm going to make progress, make steps towards dealing with it. Some days I am going to overcome it and win. Other days I'm probably going to struggle and maybe even fail. But all of that, understanding that this is a work in progress, just like exercise, I think that's a step towards victory. Number two, I play a percentage game. I try to figure out who is to blame and to what percentage. So if I'm a child and somebody's older than me, an adult is exercising their authority and power and controlling me and abusing me, that's 100% their fault, right? That's an evil thing, I think. And so I could put 100% blame on that person. But I could, for me, maybe say, all right, maybe 60, I'll blame my dad 50% and I'll take 50% of the blame. Whatever it is, whatever percentage it is, if it's any part you, go ahead, try and put a percentage on that. And then say come to grips with that and say, it's real. I can blame that person to this extent. I'll share some of the blame. Try and come up with a number. It was helpful for me. And then I can move on after that. Okay, now after that, I have to draw the line of shame. And this is, the line of shame is basically, is there shame or not? And I think it's an important line to draw. So if there's no shame, I'm not ashamed to talk about it, there's no guilt there, then I can easily go and find some quick strategies or helpful strategies. Go on the internet, maybe there's an app to help me stay on time or go to bed at a certain time or eat different or talk to a friend and get an accountability partner. If there's no shame there, it's a little easier to deal with. That's why I call some of them lighter topics. Now, by the way, if there is shame, that doesn't mean that it's your fault, all right? It just means that it's hard to talk about it. There's pain, there's regret. And so it doesn't mean that you're at fault. But if there is shame there, we're entering into a whole new ball game, okay? And You can still go through those same steps as before, right? You're still going to understand, you're going to deal with it every day, and I would still go through those percentages. But if there's shame there, I need third-party help. I need unbiased help, okay? I have to get, I would say, professional help if I can. Now, what I mean by unbiased help is I can go to a close family member and talk about this. If I can talk about it, that's fine. But oftentimes when I go to a close family member and talk about it, they're going to bring up other things. They know my history, and they're going to start suggesting things from other areas of life, and it can get very confused. So I would try and go to somebody that's slightly removed. If you can't go to a professional, but I do recommend going to a professional if you can. They're trained, and they'll have a whole specialized plan to help you get through this, or to even to start talking about it. But if you can't go to a professional, at least go to a friend that is slightly removed, that isn't an immediate family member, and they can then start to talk. And that's where it starts. And if you can start talking about it, then you can start getting some help from different avenues. And that's probably the best way just to get the ball rolling, to get over this idea of being victimized. So again, just to get us start thinking about it, it's in some cases a mountain to climb. But thanks for listening. We'll talk to you more next week.